The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Please say good morning and welcome back to the radio show. Again, Jack Cascio was just with us. I don't know what I'd do without these guys. The show would never really reach the heights that it has without taking people like Jerry Corsi and giving them the spotlight that they so deserve for their work. And that's the only way I can explain it, is I just sit back and we have great guests, and Jerry returns. There's a couple of things for us to talk about, but we just spoke with Jack Cascio. We're talking about the mystery of Aunt Zaytouni, Barack Obama's aunt who died. We don't believe that, first of all, they don't even recognize it, but second of all, isn't it fascinating that he did not attend a funeral for his mother's sister? And then you have written about yet another brother, Malik Roy, sometimes known as Roy Obama, and the Mama Sarah Obama Foundations. And I don't know where to begin, Jerry, so I turn it over to you. I guess the umbrella question here is, why do all of these stories spread out over the top of the President of the United States? They're just bizarre stories. They have no explanation for their existence, and yet he's able to simply dance away and never have to own up to any of it. Can we begin there?
Well, I mean, Peter, we've got a very compliant mainstream media, Obama-loving press. I mean, it reminds me of Pravda during the height of the Soviet Union, where even now CBS is admitting with this, Atkinson, that they're really unwilling to pursue any story that is critical of Obama. And from the mainstream, from New York Times, Washington Post, the networks, they just relegate any anti-Obama story or any story that would reflect negatively on Obama to the point where no one knows about it. And that's disgraceful. If any of these things about the family of George W. Bush had come out,
oh my,
the New York Times would have hired 30 reporters like they did with Sarah Palin and send them to investigate nonstop. But what you're referring to is, the family of, first of all, President Obama has yet to come clear with key documents about his past. We have continuing nativity story mysteries. The documentary evidence that does exist suggests that even, at the time of his birth, the Immigration and Naturalization Service that doubted very seriously that the African Barack Obama was the father, and that these issues have never been settled or resolved, and Obama has lied about them consistently. So when this, Aunt Zaytouni, Zeituni, died, and she was a Kenyan-born aunt to Obama, who Obama makes a big deal about in his Dreams from My Father, saying basically she served as his guide to Kenya.
Yep.
That she was the one who called Obama when his father died in a car crash, alcoholically, killing himself in a stupor in Kenya.
He actually named her Aunt Zaytouni.
Oh, yes, he did.
Yeah,
I mean, he refers to her by name, and she's the one who's his guide in Kenya. And then, of course, she comes to the United States illegally, and Obama, she's persona non grata to Obama. Obama doesn't even recognize who she is. She moved to South Boston on a visa in 2000. It was a valid visa. She sought political asylum. It was denied in 2004. She was ordered to leave the country, Zaytouni, and she didn't. She refused. So she, lived in anonymity in Boston until just before the 2008 election, and then the Associated Press said that this is the Zaytouni, who was referred to in dreams, and the Times of London found her in a rundown public housing, and Barack Obama, denied any association with her. And, of course, this was in 2008 when he was running for president the first time, and Aunt Zaytouni's appearance in the United States as an illegal alien, after he'd made such a big deal about her in Dreams from My Father, Bill Ayers made such a big deal about her writing the book.
And that may be the MacGuffin there, that he, in Dreams of My Father, in his 88 trip, the president goes to Kenya in 1988, and he meets Onyango, Zaytouni Onyango,
Right.
And she has cared for his half-brothers and sister. And he makes a big deal out of what he says, how he thanked her. And, of course, she's the one who called him and said Senior was dead. And he started calling her Aunt Zaituti in that book, Dreams from My Father, which was his, as Jack Cascio has pointed out, high degree of probability. He didn't even write it in the first place.
Right. I agree with Jack.
And you find yourself agreeing with Jack.
Well, in fact, I asked Bill Ayers about it. Ayers said that he wrote Dreams. I asked him about it directly. Of course, Ayers always games the issue and says, "Where's my royalties?"
Yeah.
But Ayers is always constantly, lying, hedging, teasing. Ayers remains a very radical guy who I think wrote Dreams of My Father, was largely responsible for Obama's rise to power.
So
because all of this lying myth, the whole story of Obama's birth and his rise is reads like an intelligence legend that was made up by, a CIA or another agency in order to create a mythical person that is then advanced politically.
What do they do?
Barack Obama.
There's a person that they call the man who never was.
Right.
Yeah, and they have created these people. Didn't they dump a body in the drink for having the Germans find the body with the papers on it? It was
Operation Mincemeat during World War II.
And you're so wonderful, but they took a dead guy.
Yeah.
And they put him in a British Navy uniform, and they dumped him over the side.
And washed him up on shore.
And he had top secret plans, and I think they were coming ashore at Calais or something.
Well, they were trying to mislead the Germans as to where the D-Day invasion was going to
and they said it was going to come at Calais. And, of course, it comes at Normandy. But
intelligence agencies making up identities and creating fictional persona is part of what intelligence agencies have always done.
Yes.
And that when you look at Barack Obama's, typically if you're, professional investigative researcher, that you're expecting to be able to find a documentary record that will validate independently the truth of representations that politicians make about their lives. And when you can find that documentary evidence, then you're at least have some reason to believe that the person's telling the truth. But when you can't find the documentary evidence, as you can in Barack Obama, we don't have his grades, we don't have his applications to these various schools. The records that we do have are filled with Obama lies. He told a whopper saying in Dreams from My Father that he stayed in Hawaii with his mother for 2 years after he was born, while his, stepfather was heading off to Harvard. Well, the truth is that Ann Dunham left Seattle within weeks of the baby being born and ends up in Seattle enrolling at the University of Washington and doesn't come back to Hawaii until Barack Obama Senior is gone to Hawaii. And then you got, Governor Abercrombie coming in and lying on top of the lie, saying he knew the Young family in Hawaii, and of course they were all there. Well, they weren't there because the documents, we have the beliefs and where Ann Dunham lived. We have her school records. We went to the university and found out that her classes, babysitters, her classes were night classes at the university. But these were not, correspondence courses, which then the Obama supporters who lie, invent. And then, of course, the favorite technique of the Obama supporters, which further convinces you you're dealing with a lie, is that they call you a racist and they attack you for daring just to ask questions.
If you just joined us, of course, the voice is so familiar, that of Jerry Corsi. Now, you have done work now on Malik, also sometimes known as Roy.
Yes.
I like that and Obongo is his real name, apparently. But they have these two foundations. One is called the Mama Sarah Obama Foundation, and the other one is the Barack Hussein Obama Foundation. Now, you've done some great work. First of all, talk about how quickly they were granted or given tax status and why.
Well, Barack Obama's brother, Malik, from Kenya, filed these two 501c3 or 4 applications for foundations in the United States to raise money to bring it to Kenya. And they didn't get tax-exempt status until he became public. We started noticing these foundations and writing about them, and suddenly Lois Lerner, who is now resigned for having discriminated against conservative Tea Party applications for tax-exempt status. She retroactively granted tax-exempt status to these two Malik Obama foundations on a Sunday. She did the application on a Sunday. And this is the type of lying and extraordinary activity which makes it clear that these two foundations were raising money. Malik was maintaining one of his many wives, 3 or 4 wives in a hotel complex near the family land in Kenya.
Just so good, isn't it?
He's managing money for the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt,
Yes.
under which now he's for criminal indictment.
Yeah.
He's wanted by Geneva for working with the terrorists in the Sudan to raise money for them too. He's a terrorist fundraiser, and he was Obama's best man at Obama's wedding. And then he shows up numerous times and is photographed at the White House in his African garb visiting Brother Barack. Of course, now as soon as this foundation scam gets revealed and Lois Lerner is at the heart of it, then suddenly Barack Obama doesn't know who Malik is.
Yes. He has forgotten who Malik is.
Right. He doesn't acknowledge Malik anymore.
The best man at his marriage, when he marries Michelle Robinson, right?
And I've got dozens of pictures of Obama and Malik in the White House, sitting, having conversations.
Yeah.
Until this foundation scam became, embarrassing to Obama. And that's what Obama does all the time. He exploits these people in his life and then he drops them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Reverend Wright is another one. It's never really been fully explained why Obama went to this Trinity United Church, which is a very radical liberation theology, a Marxist church with Reverend Wright, and Obama's praising Reverend Wright his whole career in Chicago, and then it comes time for Obama to announce his run for presidency, and he won't let Reverend Wright speak. They put a Reverend Wright in the closet.
They offered him the cash bribe. I mean, that guy came forward.
Yeah, they offered him money. They offered him money.
Yeah.
And when Reverend Wright wouldn't shut up,
right,
and the films of him saying, GD America from the pulpit of the church in typical, liberation theology rhetoric, then the supporters of Obama said, well, Obama wasn't in church that day.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that day. This was the core of the preachings of Reverend Wright.
Oh, indeed.
And the mainstream media, then went on a wild goose chase for what date was it, and was Obama there that day?
Right.
Well, Obama probably was never there in the church.
Yeah. There's all these stories about Reverend Wright, who really has turned out to be an interesting guy because, as they always say, the devil his due. He came forward and he said, they offered me a cash bribe to shut up. And the bag man was the guy out of the hospital that Michelle Obama, she managed the hospital.
Well, also inconvenient to Obama was that Reverend Wright has run a major down-low part of the community.
Oh, indeed, the gay thing, yeah.
And has covered that up.
Yeah.
In terms of a major section of that radical
and he also
liberation theology was all oriented towards the down-low African-American community in Chicago.
And he also said that he found a way to blend Barack Obama's Islam into Christianity. Well,
and the whole group of them, including Obama, they were all supporters of Louis Farrakhan, and Barack Obama in the Senate used to have the black Muslim bodyguards accompany him. I saw him.
They were Fruit of Islam, the FOIs.
I shared an elevator in the Russell Building with Barack Obama as a senator and his 2 Muslim Brotherhood bodyguards.
Yeah.
And of course, Barack Obama was on the 1995 Million Man March. Louis Farrakhan ran in Washington, and of course, all this is erased from the Obama history, because Obama's past as a Muslim Brotherhood member is inconvenient to his current narrative that he's a Christian. Of course, then all these narratives somehow evolve, and it means that Obama suddenly admits the truth 20 years after the time.
But wasn't Reverend Wright at one time a Muslim?
Yeah, Reverend Wright says he was a Muslim. Reverend Wright admits to having, experimented with homosexuality. All these things. And, again, you can't dare mention any of this because it you'll immediately be castigated
No, I know.
by the Obama tribe as a racist.
Let me
You
get you.
can't report on Obama without being personally attacked.
The Mama, this is the great work you did this weekend. The Mama Sarah Obama Foundation, created on behalf of Obama's step-grandmother in Kenya, and
Right.
and Malik, either way, now known as Rory, he runs this. But what you have found out is, and I asked this of Jack Cashill, 90% of the money raised in the U.S. Now, where's the end of that money go?
Right. Kenya, to support his lifestyle, support all the, this Malik Obama has 3 or 4 wives, including one very young one. The mother is still angry that he, robbed the cradle, married this young wife, and abused her as one of the many wives. And the mother, of this woman is all over the Kenyan newspapers complaining about Barack Obama's brother Malik. Of course, that doesn't get reported in the United States either. Nor does the other brother, the one who is in, Massachusetts, who is the drunk running.
That's Omar. That's Omar.
Omar.
Yeah.
Who Omar got,
Got the
and
deal.
also illegally, they were going to deport Omar too.
Yeah, he got the deal.
Omar gets a suit and a lawyer. He goes into
Yeah.
see the judge, and he says, Obama used to stay with me when he was in
Harvard. Yeah.
Well, of course, Obama denied staying with Omar. And then, of course, it came out that, the press secretary of the White House said, well, he did stay a few days. He just forgot.
Yeah.
This is typical Obama in his past.
But the Mama Sarah Foundation,
right?
You have said, and actually I think you prove that some of that ends up in these very radical madrasas.
And the madrasas, they were also running a scheme where they were bringing in madrasa-educated Wahhabist radicals from Saudi Arabia into Kenya. This is an Obama family scheme. So the entire family of Barack Obama is Muslim in Africa. They're all Muslims. Now, Christians are the majority in Kenya. And the war between Christians and Muslims in Kenya continues to go on, and Obama and Luo tribe, minority tribe, have been a key factor in the Islam rise in Kenya, including, Obama supporting this another Odinga, which is another African Kenyan politician who signed a secret pact with the Islamicists in Kenya that he would support Islam if they voted for him. Going back into the 2008 election or 2007, it was a disputed election. Obama was in the middle of that, advising Odinga. Of course, Obama then subsequently didn't, Odinga loses. He causes civil violence. Yeah. Thousands are killed in race riots in Kenya, including a group of Christians that the Muslims put into a church in Eldoret, Kenya, and burned to the ground.
That's right. They lit it on fire. Let me.
Yeah,
I read it in my heartbreak. I'd like to ask you just a final question this morning. I asked it of Jack. How long before this breaks surface where Brian Williams or or 60 Minutes or somebody will sink their teeth into this, Jerry?
Well, usually the trouble with people like Barack Obama is once he leaves office and once the Democratic Party begins turning on him, realizing he's a liability, which is about to happen in November, 2014, as many career Democratic politicians are voted out of office, suddenly Barack Obama becomes a liability, and from within the party they begin undermining Obama. That's the beginning of the deconstruction of the Obama lies, and it only gains speed as he leaves office. So that the next 20 years, when Obama does not have the press supporting him, they're off running after Hillary or adoring some other Democrat liberal, Obama will be abandoned and thrown to the dogs. And all these stories which we've been researching will then be the substance of books and other articles where they become, over time, the accepted version of the Obama. And people will be asking, 50, 100 years
where were you
from now, and how did Obama pull this off?
Yeah, where were you when it happened?
Yeah, it's the same question other, leaders in history who have gained power by lying subsequently get asked. You'll going back over time, you'll find any number of leaders who weren't what they said they were going to be, who subsequently people said, how did this guy ever get in office in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to happen with Barack Obama.
Jerry, thank you. As always, I don't know without Jack and you and Mr. Spencer getting on a list of people how the show would ever operate. God bless you, my friend.
Peter.
We'll talk. Thanks.
Thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.